If you're like me, you're always on the lookout for good, new horror game recommendations. Out of all gaming genres, horror games are the most 50-50, as it is incredibly easy to do horror wrong. You're watching Rayl Deal Games, and this week, I'll be providing you all with 10 great horror-themed games that you all must simply devour like the ghoulish gaming goblins you know you are. Last year, I made my top 10 horror games of all time, and since I don't like backtracking through swampy cesspools, I won't be including any of the games I discussed in that video. I'll leave a link to that video at the end of this one though, if you want to look into my graveyard of forgotten and forlorn creations. In this list, I'll be recommending 10 horror games that I don't hear enough people talking about. Most of these games are from this decade, however, I do have one game from the 90s and two from the 2010s for you all as well. Each of these games are simply excellent, so this is the only list I've made where each entry will be in no particular order. I think all of these games are simply excellent and each is worth a playthrough. Not all of these games are scary, but each one of them is centered around horror-themed monsters and themes. Don't flee into the night quite just yet though, as I am including what I think is the scariest game ever made. All of my footage for these games is from the first hour of playtime, so you need not fear spoilers in this video. I'd love all of your recommendations as well, so drop a list of your favorite horror games in the comment section below, and if you like this video, consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on my weekly gaming videos. With all of that established, let's dive right in. Number 10. Starting out, we've got to talk about Nightmare Cart. This game started out development as Bloodborne Cart, but with a slight bit of rebranding to make the game legally distinct from Sony's Sordid Son, Nightmare Cart was born. Spawning from this unholy legal sacrifice, Nightmare Cart is genuinely one of the best games to come out this year. Kart racers are a lot of fun from time to time, and in lieu of a proper CTR or Mario Kart game, this is a nice addition to the suite of 2024 titles. This game is even better than a lot of its genre contemporaries, and there's this harsh juxtaposition between the kart racing, gameplay loop, and horrific style of the game itself. This soundtrack is no joke either. Number 9. And Darkest Dungeon is also no joke. This one is a bit older, and there is a sequel for you to play if you don't want to play something from nearly 10 years ago. I currently haven't played enough of Darkest Dungeon 2 to properly recommend it, but the original title is something I can definitely commend for its dark, oppressive atmosphere. Horror-themed games sometimes benefit from player-unfriendly mechanics, because that's what horror is all about after all. Being scared is all about being put into situations of severe distress, and games that restrict resources, saves, and lives truly prey on the core fears of gamers. Darkest Dungeon, with its permadeath mechanic, fits in perfectly with this type of game design and makes it a real spiritual successor to the hardcore dungeon delving adventures of the past, like Wizardry. My favorite way to play games like Darkest Dungeon is to put myself and my friends into the game, which adds an element of story generation to this title. Roleplay fans with a masochistic bent will love this game. Number 8. Flashing back to the present, Conscripted is another shell-shocking banger from 2024. In the role of a World War I soldier, Conscripted takes several pages out of the Resident Evil Director's Cut playbook, and any fans of those classic RE games should definitely give this game a look-see. There's a savage brutality to the sound design of the weapons and atmosphere in this game that really sets it apart from other horror games on the market, especially since this game factors in a fear few other horror games are able to. There's a fear of reality in Conscript, as living through a war is terrestrial terror we all share. And you know, if you want to get yourself in the right mindset for our own impending civil war, conscripting yourself into this experience is the best and worst thing you can do. Number 7. Horror games from the 80s are a mixed bag, as it is difficult to trigger terror out of players with a bunch of lines and super limited sounds. However, developers in the 80s didn't have the vision that Dwarf Games does, as Faith the Unholy Trinity, despite being 8-bit inspired, is one of the best horror games on the market today. Topping it off, there's a pretty great story buried beneath these lines and warbles, and my god, Dwarf has done some real inspired nightmare fuelers with their sound effects in this game. If there's ever been a game to release showing how much graphics don't matter in this medium, it's Faith the Unholy Trinity. Number 6. Let's stick with the 80s for a second longer and think back on the old Castlevania titles. These games were excellent horror-themed games from back in the day, and surprisingly, there haven't been a ton of spiritual successors over the years. This subsect of the indie gaming community has been helmed almost exclusively by Igarashi. Berserk Studio has thrown their hat into the race too though, with Infernax, and to be honest, it is one of the best classic Castlevania-like games to release in years. It is better than even the Curse of the Moon games in my opinion, and I love the gory religious vibes of this mace-smashing adventure into the depths of demonic damnation. And Infernax is truly one of the more expansive 2D Castlevania clone adventures in the market. And for anyone looking for a mace-smashing melee in an 8-bit style, simply must play this game. Number 5. I love a nice variety in my games, so let's dive into a different gaming genre with Forgive Me Father. Becoming baptized in the bloody boomer shooter blasting of this retro FPS is something I can't recommend enough. With a fast pace, awesome hand-drawn art style, and customizable combat, Forgive Me Father is one of the better games to come out of the boomer shooter boom we're currently in the middle of. The usage of the cosmic, Lovecraftian storytelling is quite well done here, as it can be completely ignored. That might be an odd statement, but boomer shooters are one of those gaming genres where it is generally better for the story to be skippable, as the genre is all about running and gunning, pumping plump, pestilent monsters full of molten lead. Why concern yourself with the exorcism of demons when a bullet to the brain is so much more effective and fun after all? Number 4. Crow Country is the final game on this list to come out this year, and it is absolutely the best horror game to drop in 2024. This game follows main protagonist Mara's scenic soiree to Crow Country, the illustrious industrial amusement park in the outskirts of Atlanta. I don't know about all of you, but I've always wanted to explore the abandoned ruins of decrepit, dilapidated vestiges of failed business ventures. An abandoned amusement park is an awesome, unique setting for a horror game, and Crow Country uses its setting to great effect. Definitely give this one a look if you're seeking a mid-fall vacation to a fairly underused video game setting. Number 3. After closing down Crow Country for good, incline your eyes to the sky and silently scream into space. Signalis is one of my favorites from this decade so far, and it is clearly inspired by classic Resident Evil, Dead Space, and Silent Hill. These three things together create an experience that honors the past while also feeling grotesquely unique. There's a beautifully sad story hidden beneath the grimy steel of Signalis' spacey atmosphere. In proper FromSoft fashion, Signalis doesn't tell you the story either. It shows the story and trusts you, the player, to put the pieces together. I appreciate games that trust me to use my brain, and Signalis does this through its puzzles as well as its storytelling. There are some devilish gray matter grinders in this game, and if you do jet off into Signalis, I recommend playing this game with a pad of paper nearby. Number 2. The real ones of you out there recognize this game from the thumbnail of this video. This is the oldest game on this list and is one of the best games on the SNES. I put Zombies Ate My Neighbors on this list because I know the vast majority of my audience are in their late 20s to late 30s. I know some of you guys out there have kids, limiting your game time quite significantly, which, to be honest, is the real horror of this list. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a great horror-themed cooperative experience that you can easily enjoy with your own horde of little ghouls, ghosts, and goblins. And can we all take a second to talk about how good this soundtrack is? No one really talks about this game anymore, and that's a shame because its soundtrack is genuinely one of the best to come out on the SNES. Zombies is just a great celebration of the horror genre in a gameplay style we don't see that often anymore. I definitely recommend dredging this gem up from its unmarked grave. Number 1. At the top of this list, I've put the game that I feel is the scariest I've ever played. Puppet Combo are masters of the horror genre, but their magna opus is Nun Massacre. Taking a page out of Alien Isolation's book, the Nun and Nun Massacre stalks the player by randomly wandering the halls of the boarded-up boarding school the game is set in. With a blood-curdling screech, she zooms after the player when she sees them, killing them quickly. Considering the way she scared me so bad a few times that I actually had to set down my controller for half an hour or so, she usually eviscerates me with ease. The game itself is centered around incredibly difficult puzzles with obscure solutions, meaning the player is often caught unawares by the corrupted vision of this Jehovah's Witness cast-off. with a Catholic twist. I haven't beaten this game, and honestly I don't know how to do it either, but that doesn't matter because I dread playing this game for the best reason a horror game could ever possibly provide. I honestly can't recommend this game enough for those of you out there that feel like horror games don't have the ability to truly scare you anymore. Go in blind, as that's the best way to play. Hell, with how tightly you'll close your eyes so as to not see the nun's dead visage, you may actually go blind IRL. And something that can scare you that bad is the highest commendation I can give this Catholic creature. And that's the video, my guys. What horror games do you recommend I check out? Let me know in the comment section below, and while you're there, consider smashing that like button, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell so that you don't miss out on future Rayl Deal Gaming videos. And if you have a moment right now, you may like one of my other videos on the screen. Regardless of what you choose to do, thank you for keeping it real with Rayl Deal Games. Have a horrific day, my ghoulish gamers. Ooh.
I'm in danger!